Good morning. Thank you for being here. I'm going to start off by talking about something that happened 9 months ago, and then I'll get to what is happening this morning. On May 16 of last year, 4 gang members drove from North Oakland to Berkeley to retaliate for the murder of a fellow gang member. In the car, they had assault rifles and clothing identifying them as members of the North Side Oakland street gang, a violent group involved in drug sales, robberies, and other crimes in a large part of North Oakland between Berkeley and Emeryville. The man they targeted was Charles Davis. Charles Davis was a 25-year-old college student. We believe that these gang members may have thought that Davis's brother was involved in a murder of one of their friends. Whatever the reason, they assassinated Davis on the street, firing at least 17 high-powered rifle bullets into a residential neighborhood with absolute disregard for human life. As they fled back to Oakland, pursued by Berkeley police, they ran a stop sign at Eileen and Martin Luther King at more than 70 miles per hour. And as they went through that intersection, they broadsided a car driven by a man named Todd Perea, who was 27 years old and a film editor and had just ended his workday. Perea's car was pushed all the way onto the opposite sidewalk, where a pedestrian named Floyd Ross, 41 years old, a resident of Berkeley, was struck. Both Mr. Perea and Mr. Ross were killed. 4 suspects have all been charged with 3 counts of murder. They are Anthony Price, Stephen Anthony, who was the driver of the car, Sam Flowers, and Raphael Campbell. Price and Anthony were arrested at the scene. Flowers was caught a few weeks later after being arrested in Florida on unrelated charges. Campbell was arrested in Sacramento after appearing on the television show America's Most Wanted. All 4, as I said, have been charged with murder, and between them they have convictions for strong-arm robbery, battery, armed robbery, auto theft, drug sales, grand theft, and felony drunk driving. All 4, as evidenced by their tattoos, are self-professed members of the North Side Oakland street gang. While horrific, the events of May 16 of last year are only a part of the violence perpetrated against our community by this gang. North Side Oakland gang members have been the suspects or victims in at least 11 murders. In just the last 3 years, they have been involved, at least by very conservative estimates, in 16 shootings, either as shooters or as targets. It's all too common for uninvolved houses and cars to be hit by stray bullets fired by these guys at their enemies or by their enemies. Last September, a bullet took the life of Desiree Davis, who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Standing near a North Side Oakland gang member is where she was. She was 17 years old. Her family came to Oakland from New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina wrecked their home, and she would have graduated from Oakland Tech at the end of this school year. The North Side Oakland gang is also known for committing strong-arm robberies in a group, also known as Rat Pack robberies. There have been at least 24 of these in the last few years, many of them in the triangle between College Avenue, Claremont, and Telegraph. They have terrorized our community, intimidated witnesses, and recruited young people and children to their criminal enterprise. They are a part of the malevolence that has crippled our city for decades and continues to hold Oakland back today. Today, we filed a gang injunction against 19 members of the North Side Oakland street gang, including the 4 who were charged with the May 16 murders. We're filing against North Side Oakland because of the extreme and increasing violence associated with the gang. Let me describe to you the increasing violence. In 2007, there were 3 North Side Oakland-related incidents involving murder, shooting, or gun possession. In 2008, that number rose to 7. In 2009, that escalated to 18, including 7 murders. The Oakland Police Department has done extensive work to gather the evidence that we will need to prove in court that this organization is a gang, as defined by the Street Terrorism Enforcement and Prevention Act, and that its members, the members of North Side Oakland, deserve to be restrained from causing further harm to our community. The burden of proof, as it should be, is on us to show the court that the people in question are gang members and should be subject to this injunction. When approved by a judge, as we believe this will be, the injunction will create a safety zone of about 100 blocks in North Oakland where the gang operates. Inside that zone, these individuals cannot associate in any way in public. They cannot confront, threaten, or in any way intimidate witnesses. They will be barred from any property not open to the general public without the consent of the owner. They cannot possess any graffiti tools or mark any property with graffiti. They will be subject to a time restriction, barring them from public places between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. They cannot possess any firearm, ammunition, or illegal weapon in public or knowingly remain in the presence of anyone who has such a weapon. They are to stay away from drugs, and they are to refer to, and there's a complaint that we've provided to you in the press, and you can look at that for a complete list of the conditions and some of the exceptions to a couple of those general rules. The district attorney, Ms. O'Malley's office, will criminally enforce disobeying a court order. It's a violation. It's a contempt of court. That's up to 6 months in jail or a $1,000 fine. We have spoken with civil rights attorneys, including the American Civil Liberties Union, about their general concerns regarding gang injunctions, and we have learned from the experience in San Francisco and the experience of Los Angeles in handling these injunctions about how to do these things in a way that is narrowly tailored to achieve our purposes without trammeling the civil rights of individuals. This is a narrowly tailored injunction. It is based on hard evidence, and we intend to do this in a way that is completely in conformity with due process requirements of our Constitution. If someone wants to get off this list and they're no longer associated with the gang, we are committed to an opt-out process. A gang injunction alone will not end gang crime in Oakland. This is just a tool. It's one of many, but it is a tool that has worked well in other cities. It makes it harder for the gang to plan or carry out the crimes that allow it to exist as an organization. So, we'll take questions in a little bit, but next I want to introduce Chief Batts to speak about his experience with these types of injunctions in his prior assignment in Long Beach, and in general about fighting crime and gangs in Oakland. Chief Batts.
Thank you, Mr. Russo. I'd like to say thank you to the City Attorney's Office, Mr. Russo, Ms. O'Malley out of the DA's office, the mayor's support, as well as the council. Guns, gangs, and drugs are the focus of the Oakland Police Department. In 2008, we've lost 118 lives in the city of Oakland. 2009, 109 lives in the city of Oakland. Some parts of our city, unfortunately, are like a third world country. Lives are being lost on a daily basis. That stops. That has to stop. We have to ensure that people have the civil rights to go up and down the street and safely live in their communities. In this area that we're talking about here, over 8 years, there's been more than 30 shootings. More than 30 shootings. 11 murders. People have lost their lives in this area, small area. Young kids can't walk up and down the street. Gang members take over the territory. And what we're doing today is that we're giving our streets back to the good citizens that live there. And there's many good citizens that live in that area, and that we support them. Injunctions are not the panacea. They're not the end-all to end all of this, but it is a tool that the police organization gets to use. And the officers in this area have taken this under their wing to make this an area that they think should be safe. Those officers who are in the back of this room who have come here voluntarily today, they believe in this. They want this. They want to give this community back to the citizens and the residents here. In the city of Long Beach, my previous employer, is that we have 4 or 5 areas that have injunctions there. We started with injunctions in the mid-1990s and kind of grew from that point. In the areas that we started it was another area much like this where we had a gang at that point in time. Was a Hispanic gang that basically took over that community. Good people couldn't walk down the street. They couldn't drive down the street. And when the injunction, the first year of the injunction, you had kids back out on their streets playing on the streets. Our goal here is to do the same thing, is to give these streets back to kids to walk to school, who can go to the store, people who can live day in and day out and give back public areas. This is a tool for us to start dealing with guns, drugs, and gangs in the city of Oakland. We're starting to send a message that we're not going to tolerate losing 118 lives, 109 lives of people in our city. The city is a world-class city, and we're making moves to ensure that it will be a world-class city in the future.